In this episode of the Caring for Carolina podcast, we explore how perceptions of safety on the UNC Chapel Hill campus are shaped by the fear of crime. Through surveys and interviews with students, we dive into the factors influencing feelings of physical safety, from concerns about sexual assault to the presence or absence of campus resources like lighting and police patrols. While crime rates do matter, our findings show that individual experiences, identity, and environmental factors play a significant role in how safe students feel. Join us as we unpack the complex relationship between fear and safety and discuss social implications and possible solutions for moving forward at UNC. In this podcast, we are diving into campus safety. More specifically, how our feelings of physical safety are shaped by the fear of crime.
Most discussions about campus safety tend to focus on things like problematic student behaviors, but what often gets overlooked is a deeper question. How is safety actually defined and experienced on campus? In this podcast, we'll explore what safety means beyond the surface, diving into its shape as both an idea and a life experience. In light of this, we became curious of how much this is reflected in our campus.
As such, we sent out a survey with open-ended questions to understand the feeling of physical safety at UNC Chapel Hill campus, and we're surprised by how each person's perceptions were influenced by a variety of factors.
So our main question for today is, how is the feeling of physical safety on campus connected to the fear of crime? To explore this, we gathered qualitative data through the survey and through some interviews based on open-ended questions inspired by research frameworks like those developed by Ute Gabriel and their colleagues. So to break this down, we'll start by defining some key concepts. When we talk about fear of crime, we're referring to the anxiety or concern people feel about the possibility of becoming a victim of crime. This is very different from actual crime rates, because sometimes even if crime is rare, the fear of it can still be very real.
We also use the term physical safety, which we're defining as the feeling of being free from harm or danger in your day-to-day life on campus. These concepts may seem abstract, but they shape how we navigate campus spaces every single day.
We'll unpack the data, connect it to existing research, and share what we've learned from students right here at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
From 2021 to 2023, 105 rapes, 503 sexual assaults, 18 weapons arrests, and 44 aggravated assaults were reported at UNC. These were some of the main areas of concerns we gathered from the survey we sent out. 78% of respondents to our survey identified as female, while males made up to 20%. This demographic split reflects majority of female perspectives, which shapes the overall trends that we will be exploring. Women consistently express feeling less safe, particularly at night, due to concerns about sexual assault and harassment. In contrast, men, especially white males, report feeling generally safer and acknowledge their privilege. This aligns with broader social patterns where women face a disproportionate risk of gender-based violence.
The largest percentage, 40%, represents women avoiding nighttime activities altogether, followed by 30% who rely on self-defense tools like pepper spray. Additionally, 20% limit their evening social activities, and 10% express trust in existing campus safety policies. These findings emphasize the significant impact of safety concerns on women's autonomy and daily choices.
So let's talk about what students shared about their day-to-day experiences on campus. One student we interviewed, Jenna, talked about her daily routine at UNC regarding campus safety. And she prefaced by saying that she generally feels safe on campus and could only recall 2 instances of feeling unsafe here, both of which took place on Franklin Street. Franklin Street was actually a commonly listed place when students were prompted to list areas of campus where they felt unsafe. Almost 30% of students mentioned it, and the second most listed location was the Cobb Residence Hall area. But interestingly, Jenna claimed that she made no intentional precautions in the name of safety and that it did not affect her daily routine. I found this hard to believe, so I prompted her further, informing her of the ways that I personally take precautions and reminding her that precautions can look small and insignificant, but they are significant. After this, she was able to list 8 actions that she takes on a daily basis in the name of safety.
I carry pepper spray with me all the time. I don't have headphones on at night. If I'm going to the gym later at night, I'll wear a sweatshirt on top of if I'm wearing a tank top or something like that. Or if I hear footsteps, I'm going to look behind me. I'm not, or wait for them to pass or whatnot. I always check behind me before I key into my dorm room. at night.
That's crazy. Yeah.
This all reflects a significant number of women who reported modifying their behaviors in our surveys, such as carrying pepper spray, avoiding music, and walking with others, especially at night.
This sentiment, echoed by many students, highlights a pattern in our findings. The feeling of safety is situational and can depend on the time of day, location, and level of activity around them.
Exactly. Being on campus, there's a flurry of students from 8 to 5. So the campus spirit brought by club displays and events outside, building that general attitude of being a Tar Heel, also brought students a sense of security. This makes it even more suspicious when an outsider appears and campus is less active. 2 anonymous first-year students we interviewed shared a harrowing experience leaving Davis at 2 a.m., as so many academically rigorous students often do, without the insurance of a bustling pit environment.
One that I can think of was, I think it was like a late night Davis day, and there was this homeless person like walking around.
Outside of Davis?
Yes, outside of Davis, and he had like a green wig on. Like, it sounds unreal, but this is actually true. I wasn't there. I don't know if you were there or not. There's just been a lot of homeless people on campus just walking around. Like,
Having ambition plans, these freshmen have priorities that lead them to late night study sessions and 2 a.m. meals on Franklin Street, which are needs that a university, particularly a top-ranked institution like UNC without borders, needs to cater to. This, in light of the collective recent memory of the 2 gun-related lockdown situations NC students faced last year, influences their perception of safety, being a fear that 56% of survey answers highlighted as their primary source of fear.
I would say was the scariest thing is that just like nobody knew.
Yeah, nobody knew anything.
On. Yeah. And like it could be this like whole big thing, but you didn't know if it was.
Right, because you heard so many different things. Like at one point, people were saying there was like multiple shooters or that they were like inside multiple buildings and whatnot.
I literally heard like 12 people dead, 20 people injured.
No,
like
same.
I heard so much. Another theme that came up was how students perceive their safety, with most participants reporting that they felt generally safe during the day due to well-lit pathways, high foot traffic, and community culture. However, many students feel less safe at night due to inadequate lighting and lower foot traffic. Like we mentioned earlier, some specific locations that came up really often were Franklin Street and the Cobb Hall area.
Interview another student named Hannah, who offers some unique insights into perceptions of campus safety from a different perspective.
The last time I thought about safety on campus, I think I thought about it a lot freshman and sophomore year. I got assaulted freshman year, like within the first week. I told you it was gonna go bad. Yeah, no, it was awful. And I spent like 2 years being super paranoid, and freaked out.
She reported increased fear when walking alone and walking at night. Similar to Jenna and many of the survey responses, she also reported behavior modifications of changing routes to better lit areas and calling a friend when walking alone at night.
We also found Hannah's testimonial valuable in a way of reframing our quantitative analysis. It's easy to look at the statistical data published on UNC campus safety, like we mentioned earlier, and make judgments from it, but it's important to remember that data doesn't tell the whole story. Hannah shared with us that she didn't even report her assault to UNC police or any authorities because she didn't feel like it would be pursued or taken seriously. She had seen a friend go through something similar and nothing ever came of her report. And while we can't speak on her friend's experience firsthand, it's important to note that many crimes, especially sexual assaults, go unreported. In fact, more than 90% of sexual assault victims on college campuses choose not to report their assault.
Creating an environment where people feel okay reporting and feel like they'll actually be heard, because I didn't report it because I didn't think it would come to anything. And, knowing someone who did go through something similar and report it, nothing really happened.
However, it's not only about fear. We also found aspects of campus safety that contributed to some students who share stories of feeling particularly safe thanks to the general sense of being a Tar Heel, go Heels go, specific policies or campus resources like Safe Walk, the blue buttons, the areas that are well lit, anonymous reporting, the key fobs, the Carolina Ready systems, and the buses around campus like the P2P.
Yeah, and I also think that not all resources are viewed positively. Some students did express mixed views about the effectiveness of campus police or security personnel. They expressed that they feel reassured by police presence, particularly in high-risk areas like Franklin Street or during nighttime. However, others, especially those engaged in campus protests or from marginalized groups, expressed anxiety about excessive police presence while looking for stronger presence at different times.
Another factor that was interesting to see was the sense of identity and how it influenced the students' sense of physical safety, with women overwhelmingly linking their gender to feeling unsafe, particularly in situations involving men or being at night. Men, in contrast, report feeling generally safe or attribute their safety to physical strength or privilege and in terms of race. While many respondents did not perceive race as a safety factor, some students of color shared specific anecdotes of racial tension or discomfort. These perspectives offer valuable insights into the complex relationship between safety measures and perception.
So, what does all of this tell us about campus safety? First, it's clear that feelings of safety are more about than just statistics. While crime rates matter, so do social and emotional factors that shape how people feel. And those factors are deeply personal. Identity, whether it's gender, race, or other aspects, play a huge role in shaping these experiences. It's a reminder that campus safety isn't a one-size-fits-all issue.
Students' perceptions of safety are heavily correlated with their own personal experiences. For instance, Jenna told me that she reported general feelings of safety because she has never experienced otherwise, whether on campus at UNC or in her previous experiences before college. Hannah, though, reported severe anxiety and paranoia about campus safety because of her experiences here, but she also reported a reduction in her perceptions of fear on UNC's campus after studying abroad in a country that was statistically and experientially for her more unsafe, making UNC seem safer by comparison. We can see that fear of crime on campus is largely unrelated to crime rates and more closely related to individual perceptions of safety by this example. They're both living on the same campus, but they have completely different perceptions.
Now, these perceptions were often associated with multiple instances of being approached, followed, and harassed by homeless people on Franklin Street. The prevalence of Chapel Hill's homeless population seems to be an uncomfortable subject because people's fear of coming across as out of touch here when the truth is that there is an inequality of resources and that these people are often not malicious at base, but the result of very poor background and situations that they had to go through. I personally recall the testimony of two recently released prisoners, one of whom was in prison for 40 years, and empathized with their struggle with getting acclimated to a world that has largely outpaced them.
There's no definite way to eradicate students' fears based on their experiences on Franklin Street or eliminate the tragedy of homelessness completely, but a step towards solving this could be providing those people with ample access to food and resources and shelters centered on rehabilitation from substance addiction and reintroduction to the workforce.
Well, there are some resources somewhat accessible in Chapel Hill, like Durham Rescue Mission and Interfield's Council for Social Service. Increased access to such resources may be a positive approach to increase safety on Franklin streets, and otherwise ubiquitous hub for friendly lunches and cafe study sessions.
Another primary fear on campus came from students who express their desire for more gun control regulation. In fact, one survey response even revealed an aversion to crowds as opposed to the increase in safety most people reported during the day in crowded areas due to a fear of being a soft target for mass shootings.
A fear that is not wholly unfounded, as gun violence has been deemed as a public health crisis by the U.S. Surgeon General in June of this year. The lack of campus borders due to UNC being a public school enables the unfettered introduction of firearms to school grounds. And it's hard to find ways that prevent that, besides gating up all of UNC and requiring safety checks before people enter school grounds.
That's a really powerful point. Gun violence being classified as a public health crisis underscores how deeply it affects not just individuals but entire communities. And when you bring up the open nature of public campuses like UNC, it highlights a real challenge: balancing accessibility with safety. On one hand, public universities are meant to be open spaces that foster inclusivity and community, but as you said, the openness can sometimes come at a cost. I think that there's where the complexity lies, finding solutions that don't just address the immediate risk but also preserve the core values of a public university. It's a tough balance, and it's a conversation we need to keep having, especially with voices from the community.
I agree. And that reminds me about one solution that someone proposed on the survey, which was more consistent communication about suspicious activities or suspicious individuals on campus. But I think that a constant focus on suspicious individuals carries implicit biases that could definitely be abused. I agree more with the students who propose things like better lighting on campus because that's more objectively helpful.
These are all thoughtful perspectives that demonstrate how multifaceted this topic is. From acknowledging the broader public health crisis of gun violence to the specific challenges posed by open campuses like UNC, it's clear that there are no easy solutions. However, what stands out from this conversation is the shared recognition of the need for balance, whether through community-driven initiatives like better communication, in-campus improvements, or larger systemic changes. As we wrap up, it's important to remember that these conversations are just the beginning.
Today, we've discussed how perceptions of safety at UNC Chapel Hill are shaped by individual experiences, fear of crime, and identity. While crime rates matter, feelings of safety are deeply personal and vary from student to student.
Our findings show that gender, location, and past experiences all influence how safe students feel. For many, even well-lit paths in active areas don't embrace the anxiety that comes with walking alone at night or the fear of assault.
Ultimately, creating a safer campus isn't a simple quandary that's just about providing more resources. It's about a cultural shift where everyone feels seen and heard. It's about ensuring everyone can move freely about campus at any time of day or night, and in the surrounding Chapel Hill community without fear.
Thanks for listening to the Caring for Carolina podcast. We hope today's conversation sparks more dialogue on campus safety and action to make campus safer for everyone. Take care of each other.